Good afternoon, Mr. D'Angelo. I'd like to thank you again for taking the time out of your day to interview with me.
You're welcome.
As I told you before, over email and right before this, this is an interview regarding your expertise in public relations. Now, I know that you have a considerable background in public relations and have held many leadership roles in corporate and agency sectors, including ITT Corporation, St. Joseph's Hospital Foundation, Magna International, and many more. You are also National Secretary on the Public Relations Society of America Board of Directors and Executive Committee. So for my first question to you, how would you define public relations?
Public relations is a leadership function that basically, let me think about this for a moment. If you don't mind, I'll email you my favorite definition of it, which I'm traveling right now and don't have it with me.
Okay.
But it's the leadership function that enables an organization to link with its interest groups and advance the interests not only of the organization but of the interest groups as well. And it does that through strategic communications based on research, strategic planning, program implementation, and evaluation.
Okay. And I also know that some of your specific practice areas include change management, reputation management, branding, and marketing communications. Could you give like a brief description of what each of these practices kind of entail?
Okay. Well, change management, at least the area that I look at it, I'm fascinated by organizations that are going through sweeping change. For example, yesterday, Microsoft bought LinkedIn. So that sort of requires a huge effort with a number of publics or interest groups that are related to those organizations. LinkedIn employees are wondering, okay, how did my world just change? What does it mean for me? Stockholders have the same questions. So do Microsoft employees. So do the residents of the communities where, Microsoft and LinkedIn reside. And change communications is the art and the science of looking at how organizations can optimally communicate through times of sweeping change like that. And so that's sort of the change management sector. Now, what were some of the other ones you asked about? If you'll list them for me, I'll give you my definitions.
Right. Reputation management?
Reputation management is really one of the key responsibilities of public relations. Every organization, in the same way that a person has a reputation, an organization does as well. And the way that one, Socrates said that the way to a good reputation is to endeavor to be what you wish to appear. And I think it's the same for organizations. That they say that they stand for certain things and they behave in a way that is absolutely cohesive with those stated values and aspirations. And it's the job, I believe, in the highest sense of public relations leaders to make sure an organization does everything it can to, earn the reputation that it wishes for. And
another one was branding.
Sure. Well, branding has a lot to do not only with, organizations have brands, products have brands, even people have brands when you think about it. And, branding from a marketing standpoint is the positioning of a product or a brand in your mind. So if you think of an Apple computer, you have a certain expectation built around that. The same, or it may be a JetBlue airplane trip, or it may be a Nordstrom shopping experience, or it could be a McDonald's hamburger. But I think that branding goes beyond strictly the products or the service to the organization itself. So it's more than product and benefit oriented. It also has to do with basically the organizational character of the organization, and organizations that care about both aspects, not only product attributes and advertise sort of benefits, but also sort of the organizational conscience and character of why they do what they do that tend to be the most effective and the most esteemed.
Okay, and quite similar to that, marketing communications. How would you define that?
Well, marketing communications is the set of communications strategies and activities that promote the marketing function. So if it's your job to market and promote, we'll pick a product, Apple iPhones, for example, you're in charge with, if that is ultimately your goal, to increase those sales and the profitability, you're responsible for building a marketing communications plan that optimizes that. Using all the research that is needed, utilizing all the tools at your disposal, so forth, and then you evaluate on that basis. The output there is a marketing outcome, an exchange of funds for a product, if you will, which is different a lot of times. Sometimes the end goal of a marketing program is to result in an exchange of funds. You're selling something, I'm buying it. In a public relations campaign, a lot of times the outcome that you want is an exchange of ideas.
Okay. So would you say in this day and age, public relations and marketing are still very different, or would you say that they're more intertwined with how they're being used?
They are distinct functions, but they're very intertwined, and they're getting more intertwined because, for a lot of reasons, and one of the key reasons is social and digital media,
right.
Where content is published and consumed not only by a company, but also the consumers of that company and distribution networks and residents. And it's really the point where it's, no company has sole ownership of its brand anymore. Its user base can have a significant ownership in a brand, and it can have user groups, fan clubs, or even activist groups, hate groups that can affect the perception of the brand. So it gets very, very complicated, and I think a lot of those strategies are sort of, as you said, becoming more intertwined, more interdependent.
Right. And if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been a public relations practitioner and in the PR field?
Let's see. I am a little over 30 years now.
Wow. So because you've been in the field for quite some time, how would you say that public relations has changed or evolved, if at all, especially in regards to the different public relations specializations that are now offered?
Yeah. I think that not only has public relations changed enormously over the years of my career, the speed of change in public relations is accelerating. I think it changed more in the last 5 years, way more in the past 5 years than it did in the decade before that or the decade before that. And I think that it's going to keep accelerating. Change is going to come faster. There are a number of different factors, among them globalization, I think, is important. And I think also the whole digital space with digital and social communications media and mobile communications media, it changes the way that people interact and absorb information and make decisions. And have conversations. So that's really changed the game, and it's also given us a lot more tools to have public conversations, to monitor them, evaluate them, and influence them.
All right. And how would you say, because I know you've worked with a few different types of companies and clients, so I was wondering if you could talk about how different or similar working for a client such as St. Joseph's Hospital Foundation versus the ITT Corporation, and how those are, what you do differently with one or similar between the two.
Well, I'll talk about similarities, first of all, and I think that no matter what your client, they have certain strategic goals and objectives that they need to reach, and communications goals and objectives. And the way that you formulate the strategies, which is based on, there's a simple 4-step formula that the acronym is RACE, which is, so it's, you put together research, you put together an action plan with strategy, and then you communicate, and then you evaluate,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the basic steps are essentially the same for all organizations. But the objectives of the organization, and in St. Joseph's case, it was for the foundation to raise money to enable the organization to fulfill its mission, which was to provide quality health care to those who need it in the community.
Mm-hmm.
That will greatly influence what you end up doing to support that mission. So the steps may be the same, the strategic approach, but the tactics that you employ with very, very different audiences for very, very different purposes are, can be totally different. And I like that because it means that, it requires versatility of public relations people.
Mm-hmm.
And it means for me in my career, I've had an opportunity for a great deal of variety, which I've liked a lot, and I've learned a lot as a result.
And so with that, and all of your experiences, what advice would you give students who are unsure of which specialization they would like to pursue as a career after college?
Mm-hmm. Within public relations?
Yes. Whether it's like sports, entertainment, healthcare, all that type of stuff.
Right. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with, there's a couple things. I think all of us, no matter what the age, and I remember when I'm an SU graduate, by the way, and, and when I was coming into the field, I thought about what my interests were, and I wanted to, if you decide that your interest is in beauty and fashion or sports or finance, it behooves you to expose yourself to as much of that field as you possibly can, whether through internships or readings or secondary research or informational interviews with people in the field and shadow experiences and those kinds of things. Because you never know, sometimes a field may look good from afar, mm-hmm. but if you have to get up in the morning and do it every day, maybe it's not so attractive. Maybe it brings in things that you hadn't anticipated. So I think the opportunity to gain the practical experience is important. And I also think, too, that you have to be open to experiences that you may not have, anticipated. Like I didn't see myself, a lot of my career has been in industrial markets, global industrial markets, and I wouldn't have found that interesting as an undergraduate, but the agency that I joined had a number of industrial clients, and I found out that a lot of the work that they were doing was very, very interesting. And as a result of that, I ended up being hired from the agency by a client. They asked me to jump the fence and join them, and I had a great experience, and was able to practice my craft all over the world as a result of that, and learn a great deal. And it exposed me to things that I didn't even know existed. So I think the accent for students has to be on gaining as much exposure to different fields as you like, so that you can make a good decision on what you'd like to concentrate on.
And with that being said, would you advise students to also, out of college, try to join an agency rather than a specific company and being part of their communications department so that they're able to get more exposure? Or
well, it depends on a lot of things. I think you should have as many practical experiences beforehand as possible in the forms of internships and so forth.
Right.
I started out on the agency side, and that was good for me because I was exposed to a variety of industries and a variety of clients. And, so I got a sense of what I liked and what I didn't like, both in terms of those industries and the products, but also the company cultures. And so that was a good learning experience, and then I was able to focus within the corporate realm, on one of them. But I know students and, new graduates who have started on the corporate side who've absolutely loved it. They knew that they wanted to be in a given industry or a given geography. So I wouldn't discourage anybody from, starting out in the corporate sector, but it's very typical, mm-hmm. and I can tell you from personal experience that, it is a good strategy to start on the agency side because of the variety of experiences that you'll get in your early going, because you're going to work on several accounts, and that allows you a breadth of experience that you maybe wouldn't get otherwise.
Right. All right. Well, I thank you very much. That takes care of everything that I need on my side. Is there anything you'd like to add or any questions for me?
No, your questions all seem, very good, very incisive and so forth. So it's been a pleasure talking to you. If you start your write-up and have any follow-ups, feel free to call or email me.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.